talked a lot about this Iran deal. You're feeling very good about that. I want to talk to you now. You spoke with the VFW today. You spoke today for our veterans. Boy, rough ride for the veterans recently. This terrible attack in Tennessee.
Yeah. Heartbreaking.
And also, though, a systemic issue, and I know that you raise it, with the VA and health care.
Well, you know, the situation with the VA has always been, we make a promise, but too often under-resourced, right? So it is my firm belief we have a sacred duty to these guys and gals that when they have served us as bravely as they have, when they come home, we're supposed to be there for them. But when you look at the budget historically, it's been shortchanged. It was worse during the Vietnam era when those guys came back. Mm-hmm. We've been able to systematically add additional resources to the VA, but you still have this massive structure with millions of people being served. And what we're having to do is just systematically work through some of the challenges of a big, creaky bureaucracy. You know, when we had that problem with waiting lists, folks were still taking appointments down on paper. And when you've got millions of people who are needing services, it just doesn't work anymore. So we've now been able to cut down on waiting times, reduce the backlog for disability claims by about 80%. But we also have more and more people coming in. Right. You know, we allowed folks who had symptoms of Agent Orange for the first time to be able to make claims. That added a couple 100,000 people. As we end 2 wars, folks come back. So we actually now have about 2.7 million more veterans seeking services. And if the amount of resources doesn't change, then they get shortchanged. So we've got to do efficiency work on the VA, but we also have Congress to get out from under this sequester, this idea that we just make blanket budget cuts, that somehow that's going to improve our economy. And the very same folks who are going to cut services are the first ones then to say, why is it that folks have waiting time so long? So it's...
But the waiting time issue, to be fair, it happened far before the sequester. And maybe it brings up sort of a larger issue, which is, you know, given, okay, there is a party that believes that government does not have as large a role to play in our lives as the party that you are with.
Right.
Which means it's incumbent maybe upon that party, the one that you are with, to demonstrate how that will work in the 21st century. How can government be agile? And with the VA, it seems to speak to a larger issue. You came in office in 2009 explicitly saying this is unacceptable.
Right.
They spent $1 billion trying to get interoperability between those DOD and VA.
Right.
Couldn't do it after 5 years. Yeah. Went back and said, let's do it separately. Yeah. More money, that didn't work. Now they're back. The VA's got a pretty good system, waiting for DOD. Right. They're not even gone out yet with an $11 billion contract. Yet,
so
when you're running for office,
I'm really
boy, you know where everybody is, and the emails.
So this is what happens. There's a couple things I'll say. Number one, government works better now than it probably ever has, given what we ask it to do. Okay. And across agencies, there have been all kinds of reforms and improvements, and people there work hard, and they care about this stuff deeply. But what is true is, if you have a government that was built on 1930 models, and it's not updated for decades, then there's going to be a gap in terms of what it is doing now relative to what some other folks do. And IT is probably the biggest example of that. We're having to completely redesign how the government purchases IT services, how it does digital, from soup to nuts. And part of it is that the way that it's historically been set up is that you have these specifications that are this thick. When I'm on a campaign and I'm setting up my internet operations, I got 4 guys in T-shirts in a room, and they're figuring out, how do we do this thing? And that's not how the government's set up. So it's slow, and it doesn't function properly. You asked me what I want to do over the next 18 months. a lot of this stuff does not require Congress. It requires us bearing down and figuring out how it is that we can revamp these systems, and we've done it successfully in certain areas. But when you got 2 million employees, then there are going to be places where this slips.
But that, I think, to some extent, that's the point. Is you got 2 million employees, and you want this to be agile. The VA system, boy, this is, you can't find a better issue politically. You can't find you'll find almost unanimous agreement that we have failed these veterans, and unanimous agreement that we need to do better. Yet 7 years into it, we have not been able to demonstrate the agility.
No.
Waiting times are going back up. They're going back up 50%.
The reason they're going back up is I just told you, you got 2.7 million new folks coming in.
When you start a lot of wars,
hold on a second.
It's going to add people.
Hold on a second. Here's the general point. We ask our government to do things that other folks don't want to do because you can't make money at it, because it's not profitable. And so we want government to help make sure that kids get opportunity. And they have to reach the toughest to reach kids, the kids that the private schools generally screen out. We want to make sure that we are serving our veterans, including the oldest, poorest veterans. There's not a lot of money in doing that. And so a lot of times people will say, well, why isn't this happening as quick, as fast? If we're under-resourcing our government and not staffing it the way it needs to be to do everything that's done, then we shouldn't be surprised that there are going to be gaps. When I came into office, my measure was, can we make stuff a lot better than it has been? And it is a lot better. Don't let perfect
be the enemy of good.
You know, well, part of the problem is I think that we have a tendency to. I'll give you an example. When there was that problem with the IRS, everybody jumped, including you.
What happened with the IRS?
Look, you got this back office, and they're going after the Tea Party. Well, it turned out no. Congress had passed a crummy law that didn't give people guidance in terms of what it was they were trying to do. They did it poorly and stupidly, but that becomes. But
you really do have only a year left. That's unbelievable. But throwing it out there.
No, but hold on, John. This is important. But the truth of the matter is that there was not some big conspiracy there. They were trying to sort out these conflicting demands. You don't want all this money pouring through non-for-profits, but you also want to make sure that everybody's being treated fairly. Now, the real scandal around the IRS right now is that it has been so poorly funded that they can't go after these.
But that's recent as well.
They cannot go after these folks who are deliberately avoiding tax payments. And the real scandal is a tax code where multinationals can pay zero taxes making massive profits. So we tend to get distracted by the fact that there are going to be elements, because government is a human enterprise, where somebody somewhere is screwing up at any given time because it's a huge system. Overall, it works really well to help a lot of people. What is scandalous is the fact that we are not making as much progress as we should on the basic things that we know government should be doing. Rebuilding our infrastructure, rebuilding our roads, rebuilding our ports, setting up a smarter system for distributing energy, making sure that we're investing in early childhood education. And so you're absolutely right that part of my job for the last 7 years and part of my job over these this last year coming up is to continually improve and make sure the government is functioning as well as it could. But you can't use that as an excuse for the big structural problems that we're facing right now that are not being addressed. Typically, those have to do with the fact that the political system is broken as opposed to because government can't work properly.
See, that's what I want to get to, is that vision of what 21st century government looks like outside of the politicization of it. How do you govern and do the services that you're talking about whilst being in that situation? And if it's four guys in a T-shirt, isn't there an executive action that can cut through?
So here's what we did.
Yes. You're the commander-in-chief.
After the healthcare.gov fiasco, we brought in an entire team of guys basically volunteering their own time from Google, Facebook,
Right.
guys in T-shirts. They're not wearing T-shirts now. They are dressing up a little bit, although not that well.
Understood.
And we have created what we're calling the U.S. Digital Services. And we're basically getting guys to rotate in for a year or 2 years. And we're just putting them on a whole bunch of these problems, whether it's how do we make an SBA loan easier to get? How do we make sure that this agency is more customer friendly? How do we make sure that people can go to one website instead of 16 to find out the information they need? So these guys are spreading out throughout the government, and they are, in fact, systematically chipping away at a lot of these problems. And I think we will be, by the time I leave here, we're going to be able to say that government is working much better, much more efficiently, much more customer friendly than when I came into office.
It's interesting, though, it frustrates you, because I can tell.
Yes.
We're talking, you're having a nice time, you're talking about the Iran deal. When we talk about things that don't work, I think it's frustrating to you.
Of course.
Because you feel like we're amplifying things out of proportion. And I might agree with that, on certain issues.
And that is absolutely true that we are. Because
well, the VA, though, I would take an exception to.
Well, look, the issue with the VA is every single, if there's one veteran who's not getting the services they need, then we're failing that veteran. And that's absolutely critical. But let's take something like homelessness among veterans. So we've cut that by 1/3.
No question.
Now, I've still got 2/3 of these folks that we've got to make sure have proper housing, because if they fought for us, they should be able to find a home here in the United States of America. And but this goes to but this goes to the larger point. You asked me how I'm doing and how am I feeling and senioritis and am I feeling pretty good right now? One of the things I'm proud of, and this is not just me, this is our entire team, is we have looked at a whole slew of problems when we came into office, and we've said, where can we advance the ball down the field each and every time across the board? And we don't score a touchdown every time, but we move the ball forward.
Do you feel like you've hit the metrics that you wanted to hit, even within?
You're always going to fall short, because if you're hitting your marks, that means you didn't set them high enough, right? So on healthcare,
am I being unreasonable to you? Am I being unfair in suggesting that in this one instance, government failed to address a problem in an appropriate time frame, failed to do it?
I think you are being entirely fair, that the VA has not done what it needs to do in terms of our veterans. That is something that built up over 50 years. And the question then becomes,
whose fault is it?
No, I don't. No.
I thought that was the question.
No, the question is, how do we set the right benchmarks so that we know we're making progress and we're moving in the right direction? And that's true on all this stuff. Look, when we passed health care, there was a lot of complaints about, you know what, a single-payer plan would be better, or we need a public option, or their whole range of possibilities. And a lot of those suggestions I agreed with. But what I knew was, given the legacy systems that we're inheriting, given the politics of this country, given that people are always afraid of something new, given obstruction and resistance from the other side, for us to get this done and suddenly have 16 million people who have health care that didn't have it before, and 100+ million people who know that if they lose their job tomorrow, they can still get health care even if they've got a pre-existing condition. And knowing that a whole bunch of young people suddenly are able to get health care under their parents' plan, I'll take that. And going back to the Iran deal, there are people who say, well, on Iran, why didn't you just get them to completely eliminate all vestiges of any nuclear program that they have? Well, here's the reason. The reason is, A, there's no evidence that they would ever do that. B, the reason we got them to the table was because we had countries like China and Russia, even with all the disagreements that we had, we were able to organize them to focus, making sure they didn't have a bomb. And to keep that international coalition together and sanctions together, what that meant was we had to take some consideration into Iran's saving face as they moved forward on this deal, as long as we knew they weren't going to get a bomb. And I guess what I'm saying, John, is that it's not your job to focus on what 3/4 of a loaf or half a loaf that we get. Your job is to point out what we still haven't gotten. And that's why our democracy works, is because we're constantly hungry to keep on making improvements.
You're going to really go with this whole sandwich analogy the whole way?
It's a good sandwich. But what we can't lose sight of, I guess what I do fight against is...
I feel it. No, I felt the mood change.
No.
I felt it.
Here's what I fight against.
Yes.
What I fight against is the cynicism.
That's not cynicism.
No, I'm not saying you are, but the cynicism that is fed by this notion that government doesn't get stuff done. And the truth of the matter is that whether it's our military or all kinds of public servants in the VA or in ag or in all the agencies that work with us, every single day there's a bunch of stuff that is getting done that is really important and helps a lot of people. And if those of us who believe that government have some role in the interests of fairness or objectivity or what have you, don't acknowledge and focus on the enormous successes, but also the fact that, yes, this is a human enterprise. Yes. There are going to be some trade-offs. There's going to be somebody somewhere screwing up at some point. When problems are identified, they've got to be fixed. Sometimes they won't get fixed as fast as they should. If we lose sight of that, then we're feeding into this narrative that basically says there's nothing we can do. And then what you get are protest movements on the left or the right. I mean, to some degree, the Tea Party is an expression of frustration. They see a bunch of stuff going on that they don't understand, they feel threatened by, and then they react, including me.
You make them sound like bunnies.
Yeah,
is that a car?
So I just, I mean, the one thing that I feel deeply about, and this is something I'll feel deeply about when I leave government, is stuff gets better if we work at it and we stay focused on where we're going. It doesn't immediately get all solved. And I warned against this when I was running for office, because everybody had the hope posters and the this and the that, and everybody was feeling like,
hey, we didn't make those, you made those.
No.
Wait a blaming us.
No.
That wasn't us.
Hold on a second. No, I like the poster.
I'm pretty sure that came from you.
It was a nice poster. No, but what I'm saying is that if you look at what I said at the time, I said, this is going to be an ongoing project, and it's a project of citizens. It's not just fix it. It's how do we work together to get things done, and it will be imperfect.
Yes.
But over time, is it better? And here's the thing I can say, John.
Yes.
I can say this unequivocally. The VA is better now than when I came into office. It is better now than when I came into office. Government works better than when I came into office. The economy, by every metric, is better than when I came into office. And so the reason I can sleep at night is I say to myself, you know what? It's better. Now, am I satisfied with it? No. And should voters be satisfied with it? Absolutely not, because otherwise, if we get complacent and lazy, then stuff doesn't happen.
No, that's totally what I was saying.
That's what you're saying too. You and me, we're right there.
Can I tell you something?
You can.
I have no idea where we are commercial-wise. I'm gonna throw to commercial. Here's what we'll do. We'll throw to a commercial. We'll come back and we'll talk some more. This time we'll talk a little bit about what do you want to talk about next? I'll leave it up to you.
Okay.
Whatever the subject matter is.
Yeah.
We'll be right back with more from President Obama. Right after that.